So today we're going to look at converting metric units, and hopefully we're going to be using some of our skills that we've already learned last half term for multiplying and dividing by 10, 100 and 1000 to help us in this topic of work. So let's have a look first of all at our learning objectives. Our first one is that we're going to recall and use the different metric units for length appropriately. Hopefully you can remember some units of length. Then you're going to demonstrate how to convert between different metric units of length, like I said, using our place value skills that we learnt last half term. And finally, you're going to be able to explain how you know which is the longest length by using these conversions. So let's have a look at our first learning objective. The first thing I want you to do is pause the video and just have a think about any units of length. So if I measure something, what do I use to measure it? So if I measure my computer with my ruler, how big do I say it is? I don't just say it's 20, I say it's 20 something. Those are my units of length. So I want you to pause the video for a moment and see if you can think of some units of length. Okay, let's have a think about what you've got. So normally I'd ask you to shout them out to me, but obviously you can't do that because you look a bit crazy shouting at your computer screen. So I'm going to tell you my units of length that I know of. I know if I want to measure something really, really small, if you have a look on your ruler, if you've got a ruler to hand, you should be able to see some of the units of length on there. Now the most common unit of length on a ruler is centimetres, which isn't our smallest unit, but it's pretty small. And you've probably got a 15 centimetre or a 30 centimetre ruler at home that you use to draw your pictures, draw your straight lines, draw your graphs in maths. And yours is probably 0 to 15 or 0 to 30. And those are centimetres. And if you look really, really carefully at your ruler and you look in between each one of those 0, 1, 2, 3, you'll find that there are 10 little lines in between each one. Now the ruler I'm looking at here is my daughter's Trolls ruler, and it doesn't tell me what those are called. But do you know what they are called, those little lines in between each centimetre? Those are millimetres. And they're used for measuring the really, really small things, like an ant. An ant is so small that he's probably not even a whole centimetre, so I would measure him in millimetres. So I've got millimetres and centimetres, so then I need to go quite a bit bigger. So looking around the room I'm in at the moment, I've got things that are bigger. I've got a door, I've got quite a large window, the wall, a sofa, a carpet. And all those things that are around about my size, maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, I would normally measure in metres. I might also measure the height of my house in metres, because my house is quite tall, but it's not ridiculously up to the sky. I don't live in a mansion. So I would probably measure things about my height or things about the height of my house in metres. Then the biggest metric unit you guys need to know about is I would measure probably a distance, a journey, the length of a road, and that one I would call kilometres. So you may want to write those down, or you may want to just take a picture of those on your phone so you've got them to refer back to. Because in a second I'm going to ask you to pause the video. I want you to go back onto the classwork section of the classroom and go on to task number 1, the best measure of length. It's a multiple choice quiz, and for each one I just want you to choose which is the best unit to measure each of those items. Is it millimetres, centimetres, metres or kilometres? Pause the video now. Brilliant. How did you get on? Did anybody manage to get 9 out of 9? I know that was really tricky. Okay, so our second learning objective today was looking at being able to convert between metric units, and that's what we're going to look at next of all. So here I have my millimetres, centimetres, metres and kilometres. And I want to look at what I do, what I times or I multiply by to get from one to the other. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Now going back to my ruler, if you've got a ruler in front of you, this is perfect. I've told you on your ruler you probably have either 15 or 30 centimetres. But within each centimetre, so I'm looking in between 0 and 1, in between 1 and 2, I've got 10 millimetres. And that means that for every 1 centimetre, there are 10 millimetres. So if I'm going to convert from centimetres to millimetres, that means I need to times by 10. So if I want to convert the other way around, I want to convert from millimetres to centimetres, what do you think I could do? What's the opposite? Instead of going from centimetres to millimetres and timesing by 10, what's the opposite of that? Yeah, it's divide by 10. So if I want to go from millimetres to centimetres, I divide by 10. Lovely, well done. Okay, the next one, metres and centimetres. So centi, the little c in centimetre, centi really stands mathematically for 100. Like a centipede is supposed to have 100 legs. So a centimetre means that 1 metre is 100 centimetres. That's why it's called a centimetre. So to get from metres to centimetres, I'm going to times by 100. And again, what do you think the opposite of that is if I want to go the other way round? Perfect, it's divide by 100. Lovely. And then the final conversion is kilometres. Now this one's a little bit tricky. A lot of you will be used to using miles because we used to use imperial units, and certainly your parents or definitely your grandparents will be used to calling things or measuring things in miles. So they might struggle to help you a little bit with this one. But a kilometre is 1,000 metres. So to get from kilometres to metres, I times by 1,000. And then going back the other way, I divide by 1,000, just like we have been doing on all the other tricks. So the first thing you need to do is you need to know those conversions. Times by 10 to get from centimetres to millimetres, times by 100 to get from metres to centimetres, and times by 1,000 to get from kilometres to metres. That's some important conversions there. So let's have a look at some examples of how we use this. So I've got 3 red, easy, 3 orange, medium, and 3 green, a bit tricky. Let's have a look at what we've got. My red ones, first of all, 5 centimetres. So to start with, if I use my red pen to help us, I'm converting from centimetres to metres. So I'm going to use this part of the conversion arrows. And it says to go from centimetres to millimetres, I times by 10. So 5 centimetres into millimetres, 5 times 10. If you can't remember the answer off the top of your head, use your place value chart to move everything one place to the left. And that gives me 50 millimetres. So 5 centimetres is the same as 50 millimetres. Next red example. So my next red example is going from metres to centimetres. So this time I'm using this part of my conversion chart, and it says if I'm going from metres to centimetres, I times by 100. So metres to centimetres, 3 times 100, I bet you can do that one in your head, is 300 centimetres. So 3 metres is 300 centimetres. And if you want to know roughly how big that is, a door is 2 metres, 200 centimetres. So about 1.5 doors is 3 metres. And the final easy red example is 6 kilometres, 2 metres. So we're using this last portion of the conversion chart. And to get from kilometres to metres, we are timesing by 1,000. So 6 kilometres in metres is 6,000 metres. Easy peasy. Now, moving on to slightly more difficult questions, the amber questions. I'm going to have to use a goldy colour pen for this one. This is going the opposite direction. So this one is going from millimetres to centimetres. So I'm using this top portion now of the conversion chart. And this one says if I'm going from millimetres to centimetres, then I divide by 10. So 70 divided by 10. Use your place value chart if you can't do it in your head. Move all the digits one place to the right, and that leaves me with 7 centimetres. So looking on your ruler, you can see 7 centimetres is just about halfway, just below halfway, and that means there's 70 of those little millimetre lines on there. Our second orange example is converting from centimetres to metres, so that's using this middle part of the conversion chart. And if I'm going from centimetres to metres, it says I need to divide by 1,000. No, it doesn't. It says I need to divide by 100. So 400 divided by 100, you do that in your head. If you can't do it in your head, use your place value chart, and that tells you that that is 4 metres. Remember I told you a door is 2 metres, so 2 doors on top of each other. And then my final example here is 600 metres to kilometres. So that's using this last part of the conversion chart here. And that says if I'm going from metres to kilometres, I have to divide by 1,000. Now you need to be careful on this question. I've purposely chosen a bit of a trickier number because 600 metres does not divide nicely by 1,000. So I'm going to have to use my place value chart. So hundreds, tens, units, tenths. And I've got the number 600. And if I'm dividing by 1,000, everything moves 3 places to the right. So 1, 2, my 6 is going to end up here. And I get 0.6 kilometres. So do be careful and do use those place value charts if you need to. Now finally, my green examples, these are the hardest, not necessarily because of the nasty decimals I might be using, but I'm actually jumping over more than one link. Okay, so the first example I've got is 2,000 millimetres into metres. So millimetres is all the way down here and metres is almost at the top. And rather than doing a jump, I've got to do 2 jumps to get from here to here. So first of all, I have to divide by 10 and then I have to divide by 100. So 2,000 divided by 10, if I do it in stages, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to say 2,000 divided by 10 is 200. So if I convert it first of all into centimetres, it's 200 centimetres. And then if I divide by 100 to get to metres, I get 2 metres. So my door, my 2 metre door, is around about 2,000 of those little lines on your centimetre. Well, not around about, it is exactly. Okay. Second example I've got is 9,000 centimetres into kilometres. So again, if I circle my centimetres and I circle my kilometres, I can see I've got to make a double jump to get from here to here. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to convert it first of all into metres. So I divide by 100 first of all, and that gives me 90 metres. And then I divide it by 1,000 to get kilometres. So I'm going to use my place value chart from before, and I'm going to say 90 goes under the tens and the units column. If I draw my columns here. And then if I move everything 3 places to the right, 1, 2, 3, my 9 goes here. And I have a couple of placeholders, which gives me 0.09 kilometres. I know these ones are really tricky. And then the last one is 8 kilometres into centimetres. So we're going along the bottom. And again, I'm doing that double jump, going from kilometres to centimetres. So the first thing I have to do is times by 1,000 to get into metres. So 8,000 metres. And then times by 100 to get centimetres. So 8,100 centimetres. Whew, that's tricky. So, in a second I'm going to ask you to pause the video and have a go at task number 2, converting metric units. You need to put your answers in the boxes. There are 3 sections. You have to do the red and the amber section. And then if you found them a little bit hard, you can leave the green section if you want to. Pause the video now. And finally, I'd like you to have a go at the final task of choosing the largest measurement which is combining all of our skills. Good luck.